Hey everyone, welcome to this practice lesson. In this one, we're going to create a really cool and simple program and put everything we've learned so far into practice. As always, the files are in the resources section, so if you take a look at it, you're going to be able to find the starter file, which is going to look like this, and then also a finished file, which I strongly recommend you to actually check out after you try an attempt to actually solve this practice for yourself first. All right, so let's talk about this for a second. So the idea with this is that this is a program that user is going to enter a list of scores separated by a space. All right, and what you're going to do is you're going to create a process. Let's, for example, they're going to enter a bunch of scores, and what you're going to create is essentially a program that is going to determine the highest possible score. And a simple hint that I can give you is that you want to use for loops and also if statements. So you got to get a little bit creative with this. So try to think about it and put it to use. Put these stuff that you've learned so far to use and make this happen. All right. Now, one thing that you're going to see here, which we haven't talked about, is this thing called range. And I don't want to talk about this right now. It's something that I want to mention later on. But just if you want to think about it, it's going to generate a number between 1 and a certain number. So don't worry about it right now, and we'll get to this later on. But the code is predetermined, then you don't have to do anything with this section. All you got to do is just figure out how to turn these numbers that are entered by the user, and we can automatically separate it using this code, how to turn these numbers and how to actually find the highest possible scores using if and else statements and also the for loop statements as well. So think about that, give it a second and try to solve it. And as always, the file is in the resource section for yourself. So I'm going to give you a second and we'll start solving this. All right, so hopefully you try to solve this problem by yourself and hopefully you figured it out. But if you didn't, that's completely fine as well. Again, this is a little bit of a challenging one. So it requires a little bit of a kind of outside of the box thinking. All right, so let's actually get started. So let's actually see what we're doing here. Again, we're getting a list of scores separated by a space and it's already turned into integer, right? So what I want to do is I want to find the highest score. And if you actually are not using any specific Python methods, which we will talk about later on, for example, like maximum method, minimum method, like all this stuff that is going to make this a lot easier. And if you want to just go with the if statement and also loop statement, which that's what we're doing right now, this is going to go like this. So the first thing you want to do is you want to start by just defining that highest score. All right. So I'm going to say highest score equals, and we're going to do 0. And the reason I actually do 0, this actually is a very video game like method. So the idea with this is that you start with a 0 number, all right, and then as you go down and as you process this information, you add more numbers to it, all right, or you change this value. So we start with a 0, and we're going to also start with a for loop. All right, so we're going to say for, and I'm going to say score in student scores. All right, so student scores. So what I'm defining here is I want to look at the numbers inside, right? So with that, I'm going to define another if. I'm going to say if score bigger than highest score, we're going to say highest score equals score. Now, let me tell you what is happening here. So what we're doing here is that we're saying, first of all, we're pulling the score value out of the student scores, which is right here, right? And again, we started with 0 on this particular value. We say if this is bigger than the highest score, which is this, all right, highest score equals score. So what is going to happen is that this for loop is going to run over and over, and it's going to take this value, and again, this value would be one of the values inside this list that people entered, right? And it's going to say if it's bigger than highest score, which is 0 at the moment, it's going to say, okay, the highest score equals 0. But if it's not, it's going to run this over and over until the highest number or the highest value in this list is reached. I hope that made sense, guys. So let's actually go back here, and we're going to say print, and let's make it an if statement. We're going to say the highest score is highest score. Let's just close this, and just like that, this should be solved. Let's actually go all the way back on this, so we don't mess it up. The indentations are very important. So let's actually run this and see how it goes. So I'm going to say int 19, 28, 20, let's say 38, and 99. All right, and there you go. So just like that, it says the highest score is 99. So again, to just describe this one more time, exactly what happened here. We took this value from the user and we turned it into an integer. Obviously, that was already included. And we started with a value of higher score. We defined this variable 0, right? And we defined a for loop and said that look at inside this inside this list, which is this one, right? And we said look at this, and if the score value is higher than the highest score, which is at the moment when it starts is 0, right? The highest score equals score. But again, in this case, when you start with a 0, that's not the case, right? So when that's not the case, it goes all the way back again and runs the for loop again. And again, this does this over and over and over until the highest number is reached. Because if the highest number is reached, for example, if it's 99, right? 99 is going to be the highest score. And then we're going to get highest score equals score. So let's actually run this in a in Thunny and take a look at it, right? Because that would actually describe it a lot easier. So let's actually paste the code right here and run it, and there you go. So we're just going to say 19, 29, 33. All right, so let's run this, and there you go. So it says 33. So let's see how it goes. So again, we start with the top statement, and we're going to get a list of people, right? List of name or scores. And we're going to do that right now. So we're just going to say 19, 28, and 60. All right, we enter trees to just keep it really simple. All right, there you go. So now we enter these numbers and we split these numbers, obviously, to turn them into an integer. That's very important, right? So that's the next step. We split them, find the length, and turn them into an integer. Perfect. So again, that's just what we already provided to you guys. All right. So now we actually go to the next one. Let's just run this through a couple of times, because this is running that multiple times. All right. This is where we get to the highest score. So again, the highest score starts with 0, right? And then for score in student scores, again, we got 19, 28, and 60. That's what the user entered, right? And then 19 is the first one that is going to be tested. So it's going to say if score, which is 19, bigger than the highest score, which is 0, the highest score, as this is going to be true, the highest score is going to be score. So that now, just like that, we change the highest score to 19. Take a look. We change it to 19. Did you see, guys? Now, it's going to run one more time because there's another value, right? There are 3 values. The next one is 28. So we're going to run in 28, and we're going to say 19. It's 28. Is 28 bigger than the highest score, which is at the moment 19, right? And it's going to say, okay, it's true. So let's actually change the highest score to 28. There you go. So again, one more time, we're going to say 60, and we're going to say, is 60 bigger than the highest score at the moment, which is 28? And if that's true, the highest score is going to be 60, just like that. So see, guys, just like that, we actually used this for loop to actually find the highest possible score, and that's gonna display that just like that. So very simple stuff, really, but I think using Thunny actually helps you to just understand this a little bit better. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions about this. I'm gonna leave the file to the final completed version as well, to the Thunny link for you guys in the resource section as well. You can actually take a look at it. But again, I strongly recommend you to try to put this in practice and understand exactly what happened. Because what happened here was that Again, we used for loop to test the numbers in this entry multiple times to see which one is the highest possible one. So let me know if you have any questions, guys. If not, I'll see you in the next video where we talk about range and kind of help you understand that one a little bit better.